Welcome to my show. It's a guest here. His name is David Crow. Mr. David, how are you doing, sir?
I'm great. Thank you.
All right. Also, Mr. David, I want to thank you for the time and the opportunity. Firstly, you are an author. You are also a clinical herbalist and an international keynote speaker. Can you please, Mr. David, discuss more about yourself and how you are doing currently now, Mr. David?
Sure. Thank you for the invitation and good opening question. My work is in the field of natural medicine. And specifically, I have been studying herbal medicine in different traditions around the world for almost 50 years now. I'm located in California. I'm licensed as a practitioner of Chinese medicine originally as an acupuncturist and an herbalist, and have spent several decades in clinical practice with these forms of classical Asian medicine. And in the process of doing that, I was one of the early Westerners to bring Chinese medicine to the United States. And then later, I went to India and Nepal, to the Himalayas, and I studied with the traditional Tibetan doctors and Ayurvedic doctors there. And so I received a very classical, very traditional kind of training, which is not so available anymore. I was actually working with the doctors, going out and harvesting the herbs and preparing them and working with them in their clinic. So it was like a traditional internship kind of education, in addition to my academic training in acupuncture in the United States. So because I had this these experiences over many years in Asia, it was very natural for me to get involved in the study of herbal medicine in other cultures also. So I have also traveled extensively through Central and South America and studied those traditions, as well as worked in Europe and North Africa with some of the agricultural projects that I later became involved in, because I learned that many of the herbal traditions are endangered because the plants are endangered. And so I got very involved in the sustainability part of herbal medicine, and that was based on agriculture and the production of herbal products in various parts of the world. So I've had some background in the business side of it, in the herbal business, the herb industry, as well as the clinical. And a very big part of my interest in all of this was really the cultural context, how people use the plants in their own cultures. And specifically in the classical Asian systems that I studied, these medicines are very inseparable from their spiritual lineages. So Chinese medicine is inseparable from Taoism, and Ayurvedic medicine is inseparable from the Vedas and from Buddhist tradition and so forth. So I'm very interested in the relationship of how the mind and body works together, and this is specifically seen in the ways that spiritual traditions were incorporated into using herbs. And this is an age-old thing in every culture, that herbs have always been used with spiritual practices, with prayer and ceremony and so forth. And so that's kind of a broad overview of what I've been up to for several decades. Thank you for asking.
It's absolutely amazing. I can relate. I'm in Africa, and I do relate how herbal is very powerful, how healing it can be, to be honest with you. And you, as a person who is one of the person who had the experience traveling across other countries to learn one or two things, and bringing it to also use it as a source to write a book, and also a source to make people be improved and also heal them physically. It is so beautiful. And that is why I'm so glad to have this discussion with you today. I know you've written some book, but I want to speak about a specific one, plants that heal. Can you please discuss more on the book? And do you also plan to write more books in the coming future, Mr. David?
Yes, thank you. Well, I have written 4 books. Plants That Heal is a collection of uh, essays that were written, articles that were written over many years that have been presented in different conferences, medical conferences primarily, or I have used them as a basis for teaching some classes, or I have posted them in various places. So they are a collection of articles that are about a diversity of different topics, but they kind of sum up some of the more important principles of um, the important points that have influenced my view about things. I'll put it that way. They are some of them are very medically related. One, for example, is translating Ayurvedic medical knowledge into Western science related to herbal medicine. And one is a more of a spiritual exploration about the principle, the concept, the term of prana, life force in Ayurvedic medicine. So they are on a variety of topics, and these are all uh, articles that many people have read over the years. It's kind of like a compendium, anthology of some of the medical papers. But the medical papers that I write are some of them are very esoteric, and some of them are also very political and environmental, because I'm linking everything together with plant medicine and the health of people and the health of the environment as well, because they are inseparable. So that's a big theme that's in there also.
Big, big essays, essays that goes with power, with authority, and that is the beauty of the book. To be honest with you, Mr. David, it goes with every single details of things people need to know, and it goes with every acronym effects, all this and other things that we can know. The essays are very powerful, and it connects us to how we can heal our body and how we can help ourselves in healing. I would like to go back to plants, Mr. David, because plants is very because there was a time I do remember people usually tell me plants has its own source. There are different type of plants, but they do have their usage. There's something that it works for. So many people on earth now know plants are important, but they may not realize just how profound their healing powers can be. How do you introduce listeners to the idea of plants as medicine beyond just nutrition, Mr. David?
Excellent, excellent question. Now, one of the things that I learned in many cultures where I studied is that people are not interested in their plant medicines so much anymore. One of the reasons that my teacher of Tibetan medicine was really very welcoming to me as his only Western student for many years was because the young people aren't interested anymore. And he didn't have anybody to give his knowledge to. And this is happening in every culture. I have been involved in the preservation, conservation of the frankincense trees in various places in Africa, and the conversations with people in Kenya, Somaliland and Ethiopia and these kind of places. And it's the same story. And pretty much everywhere around the world, the younger generation is not interested in herbal medicine so much. And it's pretty understandable because it's hard work, and there's not much money. That's the main problem. And so the younger people see the older generation who are really dying off now. My teachers are all gone, but they were kind of like the last generation to actually go out into the forest and harvest the plants and make the medicines by hand. And this is a completely different culture, you see. And it's like agriculture in general. Agriculture is hard work. And so people want to move to the cities and they want to get their cell phones and they want to have jobs that make money. And agriculture doesn't make any money. It's a hard life. So that's one of the reasons why the traditional herbal medicine is endangered. But there's another trend, which is that there's so much interest in herbal medicine that's coming now. And so that is actually supporting a lot of projects where herbal medicine are now going into sustainable cultivation. And people are being educated that they actually have some very valuable resources right there in their region where they live. And so we see a lot of examples of this, like in uh, Morocco. I spent time studying the entire culture and the industry of the argan oil. They have a valuable resource there, and argan oil became very famous. And so it became a source of income and agriculture for the villages there. Now, this, of course, is very complicated because there's a lot of, exploitation and capitalism that comes in with all of this. But we see that there's basically two trends, and they're kind of coming together. One is that the old knowledge is really being lost, but there's a new interest in these plants. So there's one more trend actually that has happened more in the past, which is historical, and it's kind of what you were pointing to, and that is that in many places, uh, Western influence caused people to reject their traditions. And we see that with Chinese medicine. When the British came in, they brought these new medical systems in the 1800s that were helping people a lot. There was medical innovation and common problems that Chinese medicine was not able to address. People were seeing that, oh, these new methods from the British are actually helping. And so they rejected their old traditions. And this happened in India also, that when modern medicine came in, that people rejected yoga and they started rejecting Ayurveda. And in Tibetan medicine, my teacher told me that there was actually, active propaganda from the Chinese demonizing the Tibetan traditions. The Chinese were saying, using these herbs is pointless. These are poisonous, don't use them. So part of
Mm.
it has also been propaganda, cultural, I guess you could say, colonialism and oppression of cultural knowledge has been there also. So we have these major trends where people are moving away from traditional methods. Some of it's just practical. It doesn't make any money anymore. And others are moving back towards it, especially those who are really working to create long-term sustainability. And that's what I was doing, was working with people to create agricultural projects uh, to kind of shift the business model a bit so that the producers are getting the profits as opposed to the middlemen. But that's a very difficult issue with global business. And then there's just the entire mindset that, herbal medicine isn't even real medicine. I mean, that's still a very pervasive idea, that herbal medicine is not medicine. It doesn't really work. Now, there's there's some degree of truth to that, but you have to look at every culture and you have to look at how sophisticated was their knowledge, okay? And what were they able to treat and what were they not able to treat? And so we cannot say that herbal medicine cures everything. Absolutely not. And we cannot say that pharmaceutical drugs are good for everything either. What we see now, and this is the unique perspective that we have, is we have two primary medical systems, and both are very sophisticated. Natural medicine is not just herbal medicine, it's also the nutraceuticals, and it's all the modern research into the physiological effects of the plant compounds. And what we're finding now is that uh, a lot of people do not need as many pharmaceutical drugs as they're taking because they
Exactly.
can't add uh, plant medicine in a clinical way. Now, here's the difference is that in many of the traditional cultures, the people only had access to a limited number of plants. And so therefore, there were a lot of things that that medicine wasn't going to be able to treat. But now we have access to all kinds of things and research about how they work. And we can now see very clearly that some things are really good for certain things. And so we know now that there are classes of herbs that are very famous for rejuvenation, for immune boosting, for strengthening, for nourishing purposes. And people should know and use those herbs for that. And we also know that there are many herbs that are very important for detoxification and cleansing and purification. And these are the two things that plant medicine does really well: nourishment, rejuvenation, and cleansing and detoxification. And the pharmaceutical drugs don't do any of that. Pharmaceutical drugs cannot rejuvenate or give nourishment, and pharmaceutical drugs cannot detoxify. As a matter of fact, they cause more toxicity and more depletion of nutrients. So we're seeing now that both medical systems have strengths and weaknesses. And the way forward is to understand how to use both in the best possible integrated way. So therefore, people who want only pharmaceutical medicine, well, they're not really going to end up with a cure. In the long run, there will be more and more side effects, and then more and more medications will be given. And unfortunately, that's how most of the world is now, that pharmaceutical people turn to pharmaceuticals far too early and unnecessarily. Okay. But on the other hand, herbal medicine has its limitations also. And sometimes people say, I don't want to take any pharmaceuticals at all, but they should. Okay. So the key to your question is education. How do we know? How do we know when a person really needs a drug or doesn't? How do we know when a person really needs an herb and which one? So this is where it's complicated. All the resources are there now. It's just that in most parts of the world, this level of knowledge is not well established. And so people are just using the resources that are there. And so in many parts of the world, we have a situation where the people just have either a limited pharmacy of pharmaceutical drugs or a limited pharmacy of herbal medicine. And so that makes it difficult.
Education matters in herbal and also modern medicine because the Western really did a lot. And also, it cannot, as you said earlier, the urban medicine cannot solve everything. Likewise, the traditional. So we have to know how we weigh the both of them. And also, I can relate to my place here too. Traditional medicine is something that is really struggling, and it's something that our people use, which really help them heal and become more stronger. And that was the way they made their life more easier. But when the Western one came in, it was a real big struggle when it got to that point. And that is why we have to know how to weigh the both of them, how we can see the weakening point of the both of them and see how we can weigh them towards each other. I would also like to drive to the point of the people in the people pharmacy. You emphasize grassroots healthcare. What do you think are some practical and everyday ways listeners can begin using plants for their own wellness, Mr. David?
Right. Good question. Excellent. Well, we have that same question here in the United States because we are a culture where uh, people have never had any contact with herbal medicine at all. Okay. Now, I know that in Africa and in Asia, that most people still have close contact with herbal medicine. It's in the marketplaces, it's in the villages, it's in their tradition. Their grandma or even their parents are still doing things. And people are closer to herbal medicine in a lot of ways than Americans are. Americans, many times, uh, don't know anything about herbal medicine at all. Now, that's uh, fairly recent, okay, because 100 years ago, herbal medicine was really about the only form of medicine here in the United States also. Allopathic medicine is very new. And herbal medicine developed here in the United States. There was a huge interest in herbal medicine when the pharmaceutical drugs started coming because they were so toxic. And
Mm.
so that's when herbal medicine really became developed. But North America has always had incredible plant medicine that were used by the Native Americans. Okay, the indigenous people had their own very sophisticated system of healing with plants, just like every indigenous culture. The indigenous cultures have always used the plants and incorporated them with their rituals and ceremonies and belief systems and mythologies and their deities and all of these things were once, a complete culture. So we have in the United States a new phenomenon where people don't meet their plants in nature. They meet their plants in bottles in the health food store in the products. Now, that's okay because if you are taking herbal medicine from a health food store in a pill form, you're still connecting with nature. It's just that there's no culture with it. So the answer to your question is, well, where are you and what are the resources that are available? Now, one of the things that I have been involved in for many years is community gardens, school gardens, and encouraging people to grow their own medicines. That's the easiest solution to a lot of things. So I'm always talking about, well, what can you grow in your backyard if you have a yard, and what can you grow in some pots if you don't? And if you can't even do that, which a lot of city people cannot, then what's in the farmers markets? And that's a really good place to start, you see. So I know that farmers markets, well, we have that term, farmers markets here in the United States, but around the rest of the world, they're just the normal markets. But our normal markets are all basically just highly processed junk food for the most part. But then we have this other thing, farmers markets, which is where the farmers show up and they bring their fresh produce and dairy and their cheeses and their meats and all of these things, and it comes straight from the farm. And this is a really wonderful development that has happened over the last few decades here.
Mm.
And we also have a model that's called community supported agriculture because farmers can't make any money. It's really difficult being a small organic farmer competing with big toxic agribusiness. It's really difficult. So there's a model that has been established here in the US, which is called community supported agriculture. And what that is that the community pays a subscription to the farmer directly, and every week they get a box of the food straight from the farm. Now, that's a really good way for people to actually start getting some medicinal herbs. So that's one way because you can find that medicinal herbs, you don't need a lot of education about simple herbs. You just need to start using things that are already easily available. And people don't understand or appreciate how powerful simple herbs in the kitchen actually are. That's the place to start is what do you have in the kitchen? What do you cook with? What's easily available in the local markets? And you don't have to think in terms of, well, this is the miracle herb that's, going to make you young again, or this is going to cure cancer. You don't have to think like that. You think in terms of like, well, what will fennel seed do? Okay, what will oregano? What will thyme? What will chamomile? And these things are all over the world. These are very humble herbs. They're not rock star herbs. But these herbs sometimes work way better than pharmaceutical drugs. Like the simple chamomile flower, it's like that could save people millions and millions of dollars
Mm.
on medications for digestive problems because chamomile is one of the best herbs in the world for digestive problems. So some of it is really simple and really easy, and that's the best place to start because those are also the safest. Okay. I think people everywhere in the world always want to go to the most exotic new thing. They always want to go to the most powerful thing. But with herbal medicine, we can just start. What do you have in the kitchen, And then you look at these plants, cinnamon and cardamom, okay, or ginger. You look at these plants, and these things actually are miraculous medicines. And if we use them in the right way, they can prevent all kinds of problems and treat all kinds of symptoms. So we should really know how to use those first. And those are the ones that are the easiest to get. That's the answer to that.
That shows that it comes back to we the people. We have to know how to use these plants. We have to know how we can use it to heal ourselves and also prevent a lot of diseases. Mr. David, in our time today, there are a lot of diseases, and these are things herbal is one of the things that could help us to prevent ourselves from a lot of diseases that we have out there today. And I am so glad that even in your community, they found a way in the United States, they found a way for the farmers to be able to, get this across to the people easily, those that are, doing it little by little. And with the people as well, we have to try our best to use our backyard. Our backyard is there, we can plant things, use it as an herbal. Those are the things that I have to be honest, in my own time, those are the things that our parents usually do. It's still there in the backyard, planting all these things. Sometimes I might be stooling. I just go to the backyard and I take some things and I use, and it comes back. So those things are really helpful for us most of the time. So if we can develop that, it doesn't mean we won't use pharmaceutical. If we know that we're in a position whereby you think pharmaceutical will be of a help, then we could do that. But we could also use this herbal that we have around us to save cost and also use it to prevent a lot of diseases that we find in ourselves. You said a lot, Mr. David. It is so beautiful as a person who is a clinical herbalist who creates a lot of herbal that could help several disease around things. It's so beautiful. You had the experience, which is so profoundly inspiring. But also, Mr. David, before you go, there is a question I normally ask during the end of the show from our forefathers, from our ancestors. There are a lot of beautiful things that do exist during our ancestral time that is missing in our time today. If there is anyone or anything you would like to bring back to our time today, Mr. David, what do you think that thing will be, Mr. David?
Well, my focus has been our relationship with plants.
Yeah.
And it's not just herbal medicine. Herbal medicine is the doorway into rediscovering how important the plants are. But my focus has been what else is important, not just medicinal plants, but what is the role of plants in general? And what we see is that, humans cannot exist without plants. Plants came first, you know, and plants created the biosphere.
Yeah.
Plants regulate the weather. Plants purify the water. Plants give us nutrition. Plants give us shelter. They give us food. They give us medicine. And plants are actually the solution to global warming. Plants are the solution to, uh, you know, um, climate chaos. And therefore, the most important thing that humans should be focused on is our relationship with plants. Because really, if you look at the history of evolutionary history, Homo sapiens came out of a world that was created by plants. It took a long time, hundreds of millions of years, for plants to create a biosphere on this planet that was habitable for higher life to emerge. And so we actually were created by plants.
Yes.
And we are still being created by plants because everything we eat is from plants, basically. The whole food chain, even higher up, even the animal products, is based on plants. And so therefore we were created by plants and we are nourished by plants, and the oxygen we breathe is from the plants, and the plants take care of all of these elements of the biosphere. And this is the great lesson that we are now starting to learn collectively is that our entire existence on every level, whether it's, country by country or government by government, and politics don't really matter so much because we now have one universal threat. And humanity is now moving into a time where it will start to realize that there is a global threat to our existence with ecological destruction, environmental collapse. And we're approaching that time pretty quickly. But the solution is the plants. Okay, the solution is to go back to a plant-based culture. And herbal medicine is how many people are starting to appreciate plants more. But we need more forests. We need the ocean to have more kelp to purify the water. We need more local agriculture so that we're not burning up all the fossil fuel, transporting food everywhere. We really have to get in a better relationship with plants. And plants have always been the center of all of the mythological cosmologies. Plants are the deities. Plants have always been the gods and the goddesses, and the powers of nature have always been connected to fertility and rejuvenation and rain and all of these natural forces in the human psyche, the powers of nature. These are all related to our relationship with the soil and the water, and that's all rooted in our relationship with animals and our relationship with plants. So that's where things have to go if we're going to survive. And that's why herbal medicine is a very important doorway, because that's when people really realize that, oh, plants can help us, is when they help people with their health. Then they become more interested in nature in general. So excellent topic. Final question. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You are even the one I should be thanking the most because nature is very powerful and plants works with nature. The beauty of the world to find ourselves is plants is something that we need when we eat. The food we eat, everything we do is being connected with plants. And that is why we need to nurture them. We need to care for them. We need to show them the compassion because those are the things that are even still making us to stand alive, even making me as a person to be able to speak with you successfully to the plant. And that's why we have to give it the respect and the dignity. And we hope that comes around. We hope that this herbal, every single thing that we can know we can use plant to do, planting trees, doing things like that, comes back and we try our best to take care of it in a meaningful way so that the next generation who will come will enjoy it. They will not be in a position whereby the whole world will be in a place that they are not comfortable with. I also want to use this opportunity, Mr. David, to thank you on the time and the opportunity to understand better because our core topic today was just to understand better what plant is, how powerful, and what we can derive from it entirely. Thank you so much, Mr. David.
My pleasure. It's great to meet you.
Great to meet you too, Mr. David. Have a wonderful day, Mr. David. Bye.